Guy Code with Rena Osware. Welcome to Guy Code. I am Rena Osware from Nairobi, Kenya, and this is the second episode. If you haven't listened to the first one, you should go back and listen to it. It was a very good one. It was Boys to Men. Now, on this episode, we call it Who Am I? We're going to talk about finding your true self and your inner man, getting revealed to the world. How can you get to understand the kind of man you're going to be? And on this episode, we have Reece, who is a fashion and pop culture enthusiast, who is criticized by some, loved by many, and misunderstood by most. So keep in touch. Derek will be joining us. Guy Code with Rena Osware. And I am joined by Reece. How are you doing, Derek?
I'm fine, thank you, Renee. How are you?
I'm fine. And we're at the Guy Code are happy to be hosting you today.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're talking about who am I? We're talking about identity, especially in manhood. And we'll be touching on a few things. So could you just introduce yourself to our listeners for a little bit?
Well, I am a media practitioner who's also a fashion enthusiast and pop culture enthusiast as well. I love everything to do with entertainment, social media, marketing, networking, and the likes. And I'm also still in school, waiting to graduate soon.
So that's really nice. So Derek, my friend here, we're going to talk about who am I, and he has a really interesting identity. So the first thing we're going to jump into it is like, Derek, as you were growing up, especially after high school, you were told, boys don't do this, boys don't do this, boys don't cry. Mm-hmm. So how did these stereotypes affect you growing up and finding your true self, your true identity?
I guess such stereotypes made me feel like I was in a cocoon, like not to just accept everything that comes at me, but I can't be able to give out what comes from me. Because such stereotypes, they usually, society has labels that especially a man should follow. A man should be tough, a man should be rough, a man should know his position in a relationship, a man should be dominant, a man shouldn't cry. All these stereotypes are what I think makes young men today feel like they are not able to express who they truly are. And as for me personally, at some point growing up I was told by my father that men don't cry, men don't show their emotions. Men should be tough like the fathers themselves. Like men should not cling on to their mothers as well. So I guess this made me feel like I can't be able to truly express how I feel, especially to probably my friends or about the situation that I'm in. And such instances made me then go through depression, made me go through stress, suffering ulcers and everything. But in the process, you get to, like it said, you get to explore and also release what you have into the world. It's like a cup. Yeah. Like everything that goes into the cup is what people tell you to do, what people expect you to do. But whatever goes out of the cup is what you want to do, what you want to show the people that you can do, what you want to show the people who you truly are. Yeah.
So that's interesting because myself, I think it's almost a similar experience because, of course, as a boy, you're told, you should be engaging in this way, you should be talking to in a certain way, especially when it comes to women,
Exactly.
You should have this machismo women like guys who are machismo. So I've also gone through it, probably I've been told a couple of things that, men shouldn't cry, especially when something is hurtful, when something is... So maybe actually from my relatives also, not so much, but also from friends. I think peer pressure, they say if you're a man, you have to do this. If you're a man, you have to treat women a certain way.
Yes. That,
you have to have many of them. One is not enough. You have to show a man, you have to handle many. So I think that also affected me and went through, especially through high school, made me think of women in a certain way that probably, wasn't right. Guy Code with Rena Osware. So, let's talk about identity. And recently, some people can have that tendency of, when they see certain characteristics in you that they seem is of, start questioning your sexual preference. In such occasions, have you gone through that?
Well, it's sad to admit, but yes. Growing up, I was labeled as queer, as gay, that, I'm a sissy. I don't know what made people label me as such. I don't know, because I wasn't as rough as the boys used to be in primary, or I didn't love football, or I just loved staying indoors and watching TV, going shopping, looking at the new trends on TV in high school as well. And this made me feel so much, what's the word? Made me feel so much depressed and made me question who I truly am. But along the way, you get to understand that whatever your characteristics are, at the end of the day, you yourself know who you are. And whatever characters that I display doesn't really necessarily define who I am or define my sexuality. People can say you're queer, you're pansexual, you're demisexual, all these other terms that have come. But at the end of the day, I truly know who I am. Not that I'm saying I have no problem with anyone being queer or anyone having a queer relationship, but that labeling kind of made me feel like, it made me feel like people judge all the time. People don't really get to understand who you are, and along the way, just be yourself. It doesn't matter what people say. Like my mom used to tell me, inaingilia kwa masikio moja, inatoka kwa hiyo ingine. Because also that's another aspect. Whenever you're going through such questions, such trying moments, talk to someone, make someone understand where you're coming from and what people are trying to label you as. But my mom always tells me, it enters it through one ear, it gets through the other. People will call you such. At the end of the day, it's not gonna stick on your body that you've been called such. You yourself know who you truly are, and that doesn't make anyone define who you are, because you yourself alone knows who you truly are.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. But I was reading on GQ magazine that they were talking about masculinity and how even homosexuality has changed masculinity, and they had an interesting discussion. They talked about does being homosexual, being gay, does it mean less masculine, or does your sexual preference define your masculinity? Does it mean that just because your sexual preference is not of the ordinary means you're less masculine? Do you think that?
From the articles I read and the documentaries I have watched, I don't feel like whatever your sexual preference is makes you less of a man. Because at the end of the day, being a man means taking control of your life, knowing that you can be able to lift anyone else who needs help, knowing that you have respect for every person, knowing that you can turn to God or turn to friends to talk about your issues. But being in society, like especially Kenya, Africa has labeled such people like you're less of a man, or you're not even a man, or call them hermaphrodites and everything, which I think can be very hurtful, because at the end of the day, everyone has the right to life. And I like how President Obama actually fought for the rights of the LGBTQ community in America, and also how it's currently going on also in South Africa and Asia. But I don't think whoever you choose to love, I don't think it makes you less of a man. As long as you have the principles of respect, value, honesty, truthfulness, and accountability, I think those are some of the qualities that truly define who you are as a man in society and in your relationships and as yourself, like how you present yourself to society.
So actually I agree with that, Derek, is because you're very right that especially in Africa, that due to our tradition and our customs, that when a man acts differently than the forefathers, or you're always compared to your father or your uncle or someone who is much more macho than you, and they expect you to have that same DNA. And I think right now in this day and age, I think I like it because everyone is trying to be themselves. Whether you can't be compared to someone else, you are your own person. So this thing of carrying on a legacy of just because your dad was this and this, you have to measure up to them, and it can really be stressful. It can really lead to stressful situations like depression, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should be comfortable in living their own life and trying to find out who they really are by themselves. So to our listeners who probably have some pressure to live up to someone else, to try and beat and become like someone else, just remember that there's a reason you are uniquely you, and you have your own gifts and talents that should be exploited, and they're a gift to the world. So onto our second thing is like toxic masculinity. When you're trying to find your true self, there are some of these stereotypes that men should handle women in a certain way. When a woman says no, she doesn't really mean no. She'll try again.
Yes.
You should never stop until she actually gives you what you want. And a man is about taking this from this, no matter the cost. So let's talk about toxic masculinity. Do you think it's there, and what is its effect in society?
I think its effect in society creates the picture that men are painted to be as dogs by women, and also by our mothers and also fellow male counterparts. It's also, I think it happens, toxic masculinity happens from when you're a child. Because if you had a toxic relationship with your father, at the end of the day, you reflect what your father taught you, reflect what your father did to you and to other people or and to women. And you see women as objects. Women are just like pawns on a chess table. You get to move wherever you want. So I think it actually reflects what our fathers taught onto us, because usually when your father sees you as soft, they usually label you as mtoto wa mama, or now they tell your mother, teach your son some manners, or teach your son not to be mean. But at the end of the day, what position are you playing in your son's life to be able to teach him to become a better man? Not because that your father, again, it goes generation across generation. Their fathers taught them that, so that they're also teaching us that, so we should also teach our children the same. But I think this merry-go-round of toxic masculinity needs to stop, and also that fathers need to show their children how to truly be men in society, men who have value, men who have decency, men who have respect for other people in society, men who do not jump quickly into conclusions. Toxic masculinity can also be seen also how men treat people in society. I guess you can remember the case of My Dress, My Choice, when women used to be stripped. Mark you, there were only men stripping the women. Did you ever see one woman stripping the fellow women?
No way.
I guess it comes down to value. Like, such people, these are the reason why men are labeled as dogs, and men can't be able to get positive enhanced relationships in society by females, and also to be able to grow themselves, because they feel like they should go with the crowd. Like they say, birds of the same feather flock together. And I think it needs to stop. It needs to start from childhood. How you raise your son is how your son is supposed to be portrayed to society. Whatever you teach your son is whatever the world will go seeing that what your son learned from you. Yeah.
So I think that's a really good talk that we've had, is that when finding yourself, first you have to look within. You can't look without. When you look without, you find there are many different distractions, many different information that is trying to push himself into you and trying to become what they want you to be. But I think my listeners is that when you're trying to find yourself as a man, first look inside yourself. It's also important, probably, if you believe in a divine power, you search into that, you look into that, and if you believe in a creator, whatever you worship, try to look into that and to find yourself. Just do what you like, and when you just do what you like, the whole world will appreciate you for who you are. So thank you so much, Reece.
Thank you for having me.
For this, to be part of this episode, and watch out for next week for another episode of The Guy Code. We are out. Thank you.